Good evening, everyone. I think we can start the seminar, even if we are waiting for people to join us. My name is Alessandro Belluzzo. I'm the president of the Italian Chamber of Commerce in the UK. It's a great honor to have organized this event together with the British Chamber, and thank you very much, Daniel, being you the Vice President of the British Chamber, and the other colleagues such as Nicola Metta and Giacomo Francioni. We tend to do these seminars quite frequently nowadays because there are a lot of news and changes, and I think this is one of the main stream that we have foreseen in the last few months, especially starting from Brexit and COVID, and then of course the situation that is changing more and more. What I have to explain first of all that is about the organization of the seminar. You are welcome to use the Q&A session at the end, and the Q&A and send as much as question you wish. If possible, we're gonna try to answer to them, or otherwise we'll do it afterwards. I'm sure we'll be able as well to share some documents that we're gonna present today. And last but not least, I'm sure that we'll be happy very much to have you considering to be very active today and do more questions and try to be so therefore an active panel, and we will be very happy to answer to your questions. My role today is just to be the introducer and moderator. I wish to, all of you that you will enjoy this seminar, and we'll try to be, as always, as much pragmatic as possible. Most of the references and the other documents you can find on the website of the people, the speakers of the chamber. As a chamber, as you know, we try to be always on the spot, and we have created a Brexit desk, a Brexit scenario in terms of on the website of many different documents that you can take and download, and then we have other desks to help our members. But today is more probably the Italian side accounts, so you can refer to us if you need any queries, but then we're going to refer to our friends, the British Chamber in Italy, and of course to the professionals that are here today. Just to give you a very pragmatic approach and view of mine, being as well myself a professional, what we have seen in the last 3 years or so after Brexit, there's been certainly a much more urgency of understanding about the rules of residency, the citizen rights, and of course, some people, they've decided to move or to find solutions to have a domicile in Italy as well, which doesn't mean to have a residency, or therefore as well to get a residency. In the meantime, Italy, as far as being concerned, had been able to create and issue new rules to attract individuals in terms of residency that I'm sure Giacomo Francioni will explain afterwards, and as well as Nicola Metta will explain about the points for the immigrations and how it's important to follow the rules. And then finally, Daniel Scelito will explain a bit more about the practical steps if you were to acquire property and make investment and so on. The first point about Brexit is that we've seen people concerned of first getting some element of Italian background, or trying to find a way to apply for passports. In the Italian side. Of course, it did happen as well in the UK. For Italians living in the UK, they were trying to apply for either a pre-settled, a settled, or full passport, English passport. And that what we've seen with COVID is even more situation of unsettlement, of people who are very unsettled, of trying to understand where they wish really to reside and to live. Some people took the chance to move to Italy for a short while during the lockdown, the first lockdown, March to June. Some others, they stay for longer, and some are still in Italy. And they didn't realize probably that this could have a tax consequence on their side that would be important to address with your professionals, because you can end up either to be dual resident between UK and Italy, or just simply resident in Italy without being able then to benefit from the new rules of the rientro cervelli, for instance. And so it would be crucial that you take professional advice, which we are not going to give any advice today. Of course, no, my colleagues Nicola Metta, or Giacomo Francioni, or Daniele Celito will do. This is a pure seminar, informative. If you need any professional advice, you should look after for any profession you want to engage. We can recommend as chamber a few of our members, professionals, of course, and we are here to help in a way that we can be pragmatic, as I suggest, but also that if you were to follow the rules, you must follow the rules. You must follow professional advice. This is important on the two sides, both in the UK and both in Italy, because if you don't follow the rules in the UK, then you end up having an issue in the UK while you reside in Italy, and vice versa. So that's why it's very important to have a cross-border scenario mentality approach, and to collaborate with different professionals on the different skills that they can help the client to make the right choice and to maintain the right choice. So without further ado, I would leave the floor, or the webinar, I would say, to Giacomo Francioni, who is an international tax advisor with more than 10 years experience in the UK and cross-border dealings, and he will explain exactly the issue that we can encounter when we decide to move residency from the UK to Italy and to apply the new rules in Italy. Thank you very much. Giacomo, the floor is yours.
Alessandro. And I'm glad to be able to praise Italy today, not for its historic and natural beauties, but for its tax regimes. And so in this presentation, I will go through the tax regimes introduced by Italy to attract individuals. So I will just share a deck of slides. I hope you can all see them. So the main aspects I'm going through in this presentation are the first three regimes. So the Italian new tax resident flat tax, the 7% tax for pension holders, and the tax regime for the attraction of human capital. And then I will briefly explain the investor visa for non-EU passport holders. Starting with a view at a glance of the available regimes. So the first one is a flat tax, so 100,000 euro per year flat tax for new tax resident, available for the person, individuals not having been resident in Italy in the last 9 out of 10 years. It's available for both Italian and non-Italian citizens who move their tax resident to Italy. And it's this flat tax covers all the foreign income, and but also the assets held out of Italy and any wealth tax connected with these assets. It also covers for any kind of inheritance tax or gift tax related for assets held out of Italy, and with the only attention to be and focus for qualified asset participations held in the first 5 years of tax residence. This favorable regime is applicable for a maximum of 15 years, and we'll go through it, but there is not the concept of the remittance as in the UK, in the British one. The second regime I will explain is the one for retired people. So it's provided for the pension income derived from abroad, foreign pension income for persons moving to Italy, in particular to the south of Italy, in cities or towns with a population not exceeding 20,000 inhabitants in Sicily, Calabria, Campania, Puglia, Basilicata, Sardinia, Abruzzo, and Molise. The person should not be resident in the last 5 tax years in Italy, and the favorable tax regime is applicable for a maximum of 9 years. It basically provides for a taxation on the foreign income of 7%. So very, very interesting. The lavoratori impatriati regime, impatriates regime if you want, it's a tax exemption on 70% of the employment and self-employment business or business income for workers, also employed employees or self-employed workers who start a new business in Italy. The important aspects of this regime is that it's applicable where the work duties are carried out mainly in Italy, and were not residents in the last 2 years before they moved to Italy. This status of residence in Italy should be maintained for at least 2 years after the move, and the regime is applicable for 5 years, which is extendable for another 5 years more under certain conditions, with a reduction to 50% in the second half of the period. The exemption can be increased to 90% from 70% wherever the move is to the south of Italy, so to the mentioned regions, and or where there are like at least 3 children who are minors. I will also mention the difference treatment for the sportsmen. There is also the similar regime for the academics, so the re-entry of brains, we could call them, for wherever the tax exemption, in this case, the tax exemption is up to 90% of the income related to teaching and researching activities carried out in Italy, both as an employee or self-employed. So now we're in here, we're discussing about university professors, researchers with obviously a university degree, and they should have worked abroad for at least 2 years in university or research centers, and were not therefore resident in Italy for the last 2 years before they transfer. This favorable regime is applicable for 6 years and can be extended under certain conditions. I will then mention the investor visa, which is a favorable visa available for persons who decide non-European individuals, so person with no European passport, and it provides for a Schengen permit to Italy, so it basically contemplates 2 years special visa regime, automatically renewable. So this regime, the investor visa regime, asks for an investment on the individual of 2 million, at least 2 million euro in Italian government bonds, or 500,000 euro in equity instruments, possibly blue chips, or an investment reduced to 250,000 euro in the share capital on innovative startups. There is also a possibility to donate 1 million to philanthropic projects. This is very important, and we can maybe Nicola Mariametta will discuss it later whenever we see for UK persons after Brexit. So, touching the first point, going a bit more in details, the new tax resident flat tax has been introduced in 2017. So it's the individual transferring its residence to Italy can opt for a payment of a lump sum tax of 100,000 euro, covering for foreign income and gains. There is a possibility for a cherry picking, which is a possibility for the income from foreign countries to be exempted from not covered by the flat tax, and then taxed in Italy with a credit for tax withheld abroad. It can be useful maybe in case of losses abroad or in other specific cases. With reference to the succession and gifts, if the person applied for the regime is not in case he passes away, there is no inheritance or gift tax on non-Italian assets and rights, but only on assets and rights in Italy. So typically, if the person decides to buy a property in Italy, the 100,000 euro per year is applicable to the first individual, and can be extended at a reduced rate of 25,000 to the spouse and the siblings. The flat tax covers for all income related to assets abroad, any wealth tax. So the no typical wealth tax applicable to Italian individuals is payable by the individual who applies this regime, and it's applicable for a maximum of 15 years. There is no concept of remittance as intended under UK laws. So the individual can remit money from foreign income or gains without any kind of additional tax. Another important issue is the privacy. So it's there is no it's not compulsory, and the individual should not report any kind of income, gains, or assets held out of Italy. So only income gains and in general the assets held in Italy. The conditions. It's the possibility for the person to apply for the regime is granted to the person who actually transferred their residence to Italy, and the person must not have been resident in Italy in the last 9 out of 10 years. The possibility for the person to apply for an advance ruling with the Italian tax administrator, the administration, is not compulsory, but it's as per confirmed by the Italian tax authority. But still, it's can be recommended. The answer from the authorities is generally provided within 120 days. The possibility to go for a ruling, even if it's not compulsory, provides for certainty. So we generally advise our clients to go for it whenever it is possible. The 7% tax pension holders regime is instead applicable since January 2019, and to individuals who moved their residence to the south of Italy, towns with a population exceeding 20,000 inhabitants. Also in this case, we're talking about a new residents, so they've not spent the last 5 years in Italy, and they should receive the pension from a country which has an agreement of mutual cooperation with Italy, double tax treaty, generally speaking. The important and interested rate applicable to the foreign income in this case is 7%. So it's not only on the pension, but it's extending to all foreign source income. So on top of the pension, any other income and gains are subject to this favorable regime. The regime is applicable for a maximum of 9 years in this case. And also in this case, we don't have any kind of remittance basis rule for the foreign income and gains. If the retired person decided to remit money to Italy. The difference between this regime and the flat tax of 100,000 is that there is no anti-avoidance regime in connection with capital gains for deriving from the sale of qualified participation, typically let's say participation of more than 25% or 25% of the capital of companies. So in case of pension holders, the pension holders regime, we don't have this kind of anti-avoidance regime in the first 5 years of residence. The lavoratori impatriati regime targets the workers. So persons who move their tax residence to Italy after the 30th of April 2019. Not being resident in Italy in the previous 2 years, committing to remain in Italy for at least 2 following years. This person should perform their services activities mainly in Italy. It's interesting. The regime has been extended to all categories of workers, both employees and self-employed persons. So in this case, we have a reduction of 70% of the tax base, of the taxable income for the workers in Italy. This this exemption is increased to 90%, a reduction of 90% of the taxable income in case the worker decides to move to the south of Italy, to the regions already mentioned in the previous regimes. The regime is applicable for 5 years, extendable to another 5 years whenever the worker has a child, at least one child who is a minor, or decides to purchase a residential property in Italy. This regime, with some differences, is applicable to sportsmen. And in this case, the reduction is 50% of the taxable income. Whenever we say sportsmen, we are referring to professional sportsmen. So they should be registered with the association, professional association. The non-professional sports person receiving any kind of income could, of course, refer to the previous impatriate regime. So the last set of persons, type of persons benefiting from these regimes are the academics and researchers who have performed activities outside of Italy in public or private university research centers for at least 2 consecutive years, and they move to Italy to render their services. They benefit from a 90% exemption for a period of 6 years, extendable for additional 8 years whenever we have the applicant as a child under minor, or the purchases a residential property in Italy. 11 years whenever if there are 2 children, or 13 if there are 3 minors. With the visa, Italian visa, the investor visa, as we said, is requires for an investment and is intended to attract ultra high net worth individuals to Italy, persons without a passport of a European country. We already said the threshold, they are mentioned here as well, depending on the type of investment. These are alternative investments. And the investment should be made within 3 months from the date of entry in Italy, and the process has been is now quite straightforward and simple in respect to the past. So the whole procedure is now entirely digital. So there is platforms in order for the diplomatic or consular representative to issue the visa, and it's supposed to be fast and with an answer from the authorities within possibly 30 days. And so the steps for the procedure are for the application, possibly the release of the visa if the application is successful, and a renewal after two years. The subsequent period can be up to 3 years and provides a Schengen unlimited visa for the individual and for his or her family. So possibility to obviously move around the conditions are the investment to be made within 3 months from the date of entry in Italy, and the investment should be held for the entire permit period. So in the absence of these conditions, the permit could be revoked. So as we said, there is a possibility for family unification, and obviously the applicant should certificate the source of the funds invested. And it should be mentioned that recently has been confirmed that the investment could be made also through a company where the investor is a director. So that is an additional possibility under certain conditions. So the applicant or the investor should confirm obviously the source of funds, and the non-existence of criminal convictions and pending charges, and the application should be sworn. It's important to have a tax identification number in Italy already, and the documents must not be dated over 30 days as of the filing of the application. So this one is.
Thank you very much, Giacomo. So with this in mind, now the understanding is to see how the other kind of finding the option of residency in Italy, or the other kind of visa that can be sought after, and the Avvocato Metta is a specialist on this and will be giving you all the information. So before passing by, what is important is that we have seen that there are options to benefit for the residency in Italy, but you must get the residency first, then you can get these options, which are important to you if you were to become resident in Italy. However, you need to do it rightly, otherwise you don't get the options. And then is the other option of the visa, which is for non-Schengen people, which is going to be applicable also to British after Brexit. And this is another point. But before Brexit, I think it's important to understand what Nicola Metta can say to us about the residency in Italy and what you should do before the 31st of December. Thank you very much, Nicola. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Alessandro. Let me share my screen here. I'm going to see if I can manage this. Let's see. I think you probably can see it now, right? Oops. All right. Can you see right? Can you see my screen? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So thank you very much, Alessandro, and the Italian Chamber of Commerce in the UK. Thank you very much, Daniel Chidito from the British Chamber of Commerce for Italy, for having me. My name is Nick Metta, and I'm an Italian lawyer. I lead the international practice in my firm, where we have a strong immigration department. Just to give you some more background about my firm, and myself, actually, more than my firm. I am a dual citizen myself. I'm a dual resident. I'm an Italian and an American. And I have an American wife and 3 kids, all dual citizens. And I've moved myself and my family between the 2 countries and changed residence a few times. So my presentation today is going to tell you about acquiring Italian residency, precisely what I've done many times for my clients and even for my own family. And as you can imagine, because of Brexit, we have been pretty busy over the past few years. In my presentation today, I will not only focus on the rules that are applicable, that are enforced, but perhaps more importantly on the actual practices that are adopted by bureaucratic officers you deal with when moving to Italy. Now, why that is important? Most of you already know about Italy, and Giacomo was mentioning how beautiful and incredible, diverse the landscape, food, language, and culture is when you travel between Italian regions, from city to city, and between small villages. However, that diversity, unfortunately, for those wishing to obtain residency, is also found in the way local bureaucrats interpret and apply immigration rules. This often creates uncertainty, and this might be very unsettling. So I'm going to focus on the most common practices, and I will also provide with the tools you need to smoothly navigate and adapt to the local policies applied in your specific areas of Italy. So this, of course, is about becoming a resident in Italy. During our time together, I will give you the answers to the key questions British clients have asked over the past 2 years while we have been preparing for Brexit. Now, specifically, I'm going to talk about applying for Italian residency before the end of the transition period, which is the 31st of December 2020, very briefly, obviously, because it's only 30 days left. And then what options you have as to the 1st of January 2021. So let's dive into it. So let's start talking about what happens within the next 30 days, what your options still are. We're going to address specifically the requirements and the process if you want to rush and gain Italian residency real quick. As you all know, the UK left the EU officially on the 31st of January 2020. However, for immigration and many other purposes, not much will change until the end of this year, which has been the so-called transition period, right? The transition period will officially end 31st of December 2020, and until then, British citizens can still actually go to Italy without any particular immigration requirement and establish their residency as a matter of a mere choice, not really subject to any significant scrutiny or discretion by Italian authorities. In particular, British citizens until the end of 2020 are subject to the same exact rules that are applicable to any EU citizen. Okay, so let's review quickly the requirements and the process to become an Italian resident before the end of the year. So the requirements are pretty basic. Obviously, you need to fill out an application form. And here we start with the diversity I was referring to before. Each commune, each council office has their own forms. However, you can usually download it easily from their website. You fill it out. You show up with your UK passport or other means of identification where your citizenship, British citizenship, is officially validly proven, and you prove that you have sufficient financial means, and you can prove that by showing evidence of having a job or sufficient cash. A balance of 6,000 or more on your bank account in your name will be sufficient for that purpose. Also, a requirement is to show that you have housing, which might be a property title, a property you have purchased or inherited, a lease agreement. Another requirement is they want you to have medical insurance, because right after you move to Italy, you would not be covered by the Italian national health system, so they want you to have your own health insurance for a minimum of 1 year. It is a pretty affordable. We'll look at it later. So what is the process about applying for residence within by the end of this transition period? So as we said, you prepare the application form. You can file it in person, but also via mail or email. So you don't have to go to the municipality in person. This is very important. Most people think they have to go there in person. So that makes things much easier, obviously, right? Then the municipality, however, has to process your application and review your requirements. And among the checks that they do, usually they send the municipal police to check at the elected place of your residency, of your home in Italy. They will send municipal police to check that you are actually staying there. This is a 40 5-day process. And so what that means is that should they, for whatever reason, not being able to send the police, or should you not hear from the council within that time frame, it means that your status as a resident has settled. You're a resident. You can apply for the residency certificate. And this is not a standard certificate. This is a residence certificate in compliance with the withdrawal agreement. It's a certificate that confirms officially your status as a British citizen who has acquired residence before the end of the transition period. Now, why this is important now, which is the 1st of December, and there are 45 days, as we said, processing time. Some of you might wonder, what if I start now and I get the answer in the mid-January? Well, the residence applications is a retroactive process. So once you are confirmed from the date of filing the application. So if you file it tomorrow, or let's say on the 15th of December, you will be in, even if the process finishes at the end of January 2021. This is a sample of what the community might use as a declaration of being a registered resident. We have retrieved many in the past few months, and each commune frankly uses a different template. I don't know why they complicate their lives. This is the official one issued by the Italian Ministry of the Interiors. However, don't be surprised if some commune ask or provide you with a different form. As far as it is mentioned in the certificate that this is issued in compliance with the withdrawal agreement, as you can see here on this document, the second paragraph from the top, it will be fine and you will be officially in. Okay, so what happens after the end of the transition period from the 1st of January 2021? There are several consequences. There are some very basic consequences, even just if you have to travel for tourism to Italy. Let's say you have your holiday home in Italy, you want to go there, spend there a couple of weeks or more. You need to bear in mind that you need to bring with you your passport, and you need to make sure that your passport is valid for at least 6 months after the departure date. Also, you need to remember that it is important that you do not stay in Italy and actually within the Schengen area for more than 90 days in the aggregate. What does it mean is that within any 180-day period, you can only spend no more than 90 days within the Schengen area. Staying more than that is called overstaying, and that might put a stain on your passport and your ability to enter the Schengen area in the future. So in order to stay for longer than 90 days, there are options. Obviously, you can apply for a visa and or for an immigration card. That might be a permesso di soggiorno, carta di soggiorno, and some other options we'll see later. So let's dive into what is an Italian visa for a British citizen, who would be officially a non-European citizen. So British citizens will be treated the same way Americans or Australians are treated when it comes to migrating to Italy, moving to Italy. So in order to stay for more than 90 days, the very first step in most cases will be to get a visa. We'll see how it works. It is a multi-step process to get residency through a visa. You first get the visa, you then get the permesso di soggiorno, and then you are entitled to apply for Italian residency. So as you can see here, there will be 2 major processes to go through before you can apply for residency after the 1st of January 2021, unless you have received that magic certificate we looked at together earlier. These are some of the most common visas you usually might hear about. I've not even included the investment visa because most people don't have 1 million or 2 million to kind of invest to go to Italy. But Giacomo definitely provided enough information for you to consider that. Thank you, Giacomo. Some people wonder if it is easier not to get a work visa. It is extremely hard to get a work visa for Italy because Italian unemployment rate is very, very high, and there is the Italian employment market is very protected. So the only available or more easily available work visa are for types of jobs Italians don't want to do, mainly in the farming industry or in the caring for elder people. Student visa is a pretty popular one. Also allows the visa holder to work up to 20 hours per week legally. Then there is the family reunion, also is pretty popular for religious purposes, medical reasons, if you can only get some sort of treatment, life-saving treatment in Italy. And then there's one of the most popular really for people is the elective residency visa. So let's talk about the, now I don't know what's going on here. Okay, sorry about that. So the Italian visa, whatever type you go with, there is a pretty much similar structure common to all the types of visa applications you might take into consideration. So, and then there are of course special requirements depending on the type of visa you are interested in. The common requirements is, first of all, major difference, you can only apply not in Italy, but in the country where you have your current residence or domicile, so where you live. So you can only apply at the consulate that is competent for your geographical area where you have your permanent home. Also, it is very important to know that it is a process that takes some time to be completed, and during that time, the Italian consulate will hold your passport during the entire process. There are some consular fees that are involved, you have to pay, nothing major. They ask for financial resources that usually are much higher than what they would ask for in the standard Italian residency application from a EU citizen. And some consulates, depending on the regional area you are in, ask also for travel ticket evidence, medical insurance, exactly the same we discussed for the residence, and also proof of housing. So this is pretty standard. Then there are some special requirements which are a little bit trickier. Some consulates, depending on where you are coming from, might ask for a cover letter and a criminal background check. Now, I would mention earlier as one of the most popular elective residence visa, the most popular visas, the Italian elective residency visa. Why is that so popular? Because most people who want to move to Italy in general are either retired people or people who have the means to move to Italy, work remotely, or they don't really depend on a job, and they have the means to support themselves pretty much. So this visa has some specific, very specific requirements that we're going to review now. As you can see, the financial resources requirement is twofold. They want to see that you actually have in your bank account or investment account a certain balance, minimum 31,000 euros for one person. For a married couple is 38,000. And also they want to see your ability to generate the same amount of money, at least the same amount of money every year as a passive income, meaning an income you don't have to work for. That might be lease, a rental income, that might be royalties, that might be dividends from business, and so forth, annuities, pensions. They also ask for reference letters from banks, from accountants, the 2 most recent tax returns, medical insurance for 1 year, house or lease, house title or lease agreement for at least 12 months, a cover letter or letter of intent, and criminal background check. As you can see, these requirements are way more stringent than what it is asked today. So this usually takes about 3 to 6 months to put together as an application, and then we'll see the timing here. The consulate will give you an appointment usually about 3 months out. It really depends on the time when you apply, and the region where you apply from. But usually before COVID, consulates used to have availability in about 3 months from the appointment scheduling date. Then Italian law says that they have up to 90 days to process your application. But however, usually the release time is about 3 weeks. We have seen visas, elective residence visas issued within 1 business day, and in some very, very rare cases within at the end of the 2nd month after the application, but that's extremely rare. The visa has a duration of 1 year. So you get the visa, and then what happens? After you get the visa, you go to Italy, right? And you have to take care of this next step. The next step is actually comprised of 2 parts. I'm talking about the permesso di soggiorno or permit to stay. So for this other step, the visa holder within 8 business days after arriving in Italy has to go to the post office, the Poste Italiane office closest to his home or her home in Italy, in person, and shall get from the post office the kit, they call it. It's an immigration form bundle. Bring together some of the documents that were filed with the visa application, pay an application fee, and file the all this paperwork with the post office representative. At filing, the post representative will issue a receipt, a filing receipt, and on the filing receipt there should be the appointment schedule to be fingerprinted at the immigration office. However, sometimes the post office is not able to schedule the appointment right then and there, and so you might receive the notice to be fingerprinted in the mail after a week or 2. On the precise date and time that you are called to be fingerprinted to the immigration office, Questura, you will go there very, very on time because you're very precise, and then you will discover that you have to wait about 3 hours with another bunch of like probably 20 people because they're not very well organized, and that is direct personal experience and experience of many clients. So just bring with you a lot of patience. Once you are fingerprinted, they will tell you roughly what their current timing is to issue some your permit to stay card from the immigration office for you to go and pick it up. So as you can see, in order to get Italian residency, you first have to get the visa, then you get the permesso di soggiorno, two stages, and then once you pick up your permit to stay card, finally you can get your Italian residency. You can apply for Italian residency. Now, there is another opportunity that might skip you the visa process and might enable you to get an immigration card straight in Italy without having to go through the consulate overseas. And this option is often in very few cases, and some of the most common cases are if your spouse is a registered Italian resident, or if your child is under the age of 18 and is a registered Italian resident. In any of these 2 cases, either or, you can apply directly in Italy, no need of visa. You go to the post office right away, you bring with you the marriage certificate showing that your spouse is registered, you are married to your spouse, and obviously your spouse's Italian registered residence certificate, or your child's residence certificate and birth certificate showing your name on it. No medical insurance is required, no other requirement. Similar filing fees of as for the permesso di soggiorno we just saw. Similar processing time. We're talking about, unfortunately, 9 to 12 months for the permesso di soggiorno, right? This on top of the 3 months for the visa. And then similar 3-step process of filing, fingerprint, pick it up when ready. So carta di soggiorno gives you entitlement straight away to register as an Italian resident. Finally, I'm running out of time here. You can get an immigration card straight away from Italy if you have Italian heritage. So if you lost your Italian citizenship, you can apply directly for residency in Italy. Standard requirements, in addition to evidence of your former Italian citizenship, no need of visa or permesso di soggiorno. You just get your Italian residency right away, boom. Or as an alternative, if you are of Italian descent, you can show up directly in Italy to the to local comune. Standard requirements as applicable for British citizens before the end of the transition period. Even after that, evidence of your Italian descent. If the comune, if the council representative is satisfied that you are actually of Italian descent, they will accept your residence, and they will also start processing your citizenship file to give you Italian citizenship, and that will give you entitlement to apply for the permesso di soggiorno directly in the post office without going through the consulate. That's pretty much it. I have summarized here pretty much everything I have discussed. And you can see here before the end of the transition period, after the end of the transition period. Just bear in mind, some people are asking, can I just start the process of applying for the visa now? No, it is not possible, because you as a British citizen are not entitled even to apply for a visa right now. You can only apply for a visa when you cannot go to Italy without a visa. So that would be after the end of the transition period. Now here there is, as you can see, also an estimate of timing, processes timing, fees. There are no fees for the residency application whatsoever, 0 fees. There are some minor fees for visa application, permesso di soggiorno, and carta di soggiorno. Processing time goes from 45 days for the residency to 4 to 5 months for the visa, up to 12 months for the permesso di soggiorno or the carta di soggiorno. And then the validity, this is important. Residency application lasts without a pre-established expiration date. Visa applications, usually for the elective residence visa at least, is 1 year only. And within that year, you obtain the permesso di soggiorno, which is usually 1 year renewable, whereas the carta di soggiorno is 5 years renewable. Of course, many exceptions apply. This is the lawyer in me talking, but this is also our job, or the job of any lawyers, to make sure that any possible options that might be available to you is pursued, and perhaps to find a way around some obstacles that would prevent you from obtaining a visa or a permesso di soggiorno or residency in general. Thank you very much. That was it. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much. I'm worried about the time, so I'll leave the floor to Daniel, and then we wrap it up with the question we receive at the end. So to try to finish up by 6:30 UK time. Thank you very much. Daniel,
I really appreciate that, Alessandro. Nick, could you stop sharing your screen for me, please?
Apologize.
That's okay. And we'll be able to bring up the presentation. It's good to be here. It's a pleasure. Thank you very much to the Italian Chamber of Commerce in the UK for hosting this, and jointly with the British Chamber of Commerce for Italy. I'm a past president at that chamber and a current vice president there. Now, hopefully, I'll be able to bring up my slides for you, and we can get this started and not keep you too long, and leave some time for questions. Please keep putting your questions into the Q&A area on this webinar so we can pick them up. We are looking at them, we are reading them, and we can address them before the end. Can everybody see that okay? Can Nick and Alessandro, can you see slides one by one? Fantastic. Okay, so we've talked about immigration and visas. We've talked about the tax concessions and the tax environment in Italy, especially right now where there's some wonderful tax concessions available. What we wanted to do is round out tonight's webinar with a discussion about property, about buying property, about the markets, the property market in Italy, and a tiny comparison or a short comparison to the UK market. And then look at the property costs and considerations of holding property and investing property in Italy. So briefly, I just want to provide some context here. We've had obviously an incredible 2020, and where all our lives have been affected one way or the other by what's going on around the world. And if I could summarize that all into a trend statement, I'd say something like this, and that is that COVID-19, together with political and economic upheaval is stimulating many of us to think about our lives, our lifestyles, where we want to live, in some cases, perhaps how we want to transition to an alternative style of living. And that is causing a lot of us to get thinking, and also has kickstarted these trends at the moment. Clearly, home working and remote working is booming and very much required in many of our countries. And we've also seen an evolving trend affecting the property market within people looking to move away perhaps from big cities and areas of lots and lots of people and move into smaller areas. Some people are in fact asking themselves, why should they pay big city rents in apartments or homes close to big cities and metropolitan areas, especially now too when they're taking into account their health and their lifestyle and the health of their families. And perhaps they're living in an undersized apartment to get that access to be living close to a CBD. But what if they could live and work and get their career achievement still living from somewhere different, perhaps even a house in the hills? So this is one of the trends that are affecting property at the moment. And we're seeing in Italy, agents have reported over the first 6 months of 2020, a much increase in inquiries in the southern Italy as opposed to the north of Italy. Some people are asking all around the world, do I want to stay where I am and eventually retire and live as I have been through the past years? It might be 5 years, 15, 20 years, or all your life. Or could you really consider moving internationally? If we look at Italy's property market and living there for a moment and just provide a context into how it looks across the board. I'm not going to look at individual markets. Individual cities and areas will be different. There's a wide variety of property type on offer, quality of property and prices of property throughout Italy. It is incredibly diverse. But if you look at the national statistics, we can actually see that since the global financial crisis in 2010, the statistics still show that property overall is 30% below those values of 2010. The biggest city markets have grown, however, particularly Milan and some of the northern cities as well over the last 2 or 3 years. They've started to show consistent or year-on-year growth, but it's not the same throughout the country. Now, as a result, that means, first of all, and this slide shows a great comparison below to the London market, which instead over the last 10 years has grown considerably. And that's not the same as the wider UK. The wider UK, I think, is around 30 to 40%. But in London, house prices have actually gone up by 70% over that same period. But to get into property in London, as many of you on this call will know, the average price of entry is around £477,000. Conversely, in Italy, as a result of the economic situation and the history I just summarized, there are numerous affordable locations. So how is property actually looked at? If you've got property now in the UK, or anywhere around the world, and you arrive in Italy, I want to address how is Italy going to look at that foreign property? How are they going to treat it? And I want to look also about how certain aspects of buying in Italy and the taxes on property within Italy, and give you a refresher for those of you who already have property in Italy, perhaps. So the property taxes, I've summarized into 4 areas. We can do that by summarizing, first of all, council rates and annual types of holding costs. We can look at capital gains tax, rental income, and inheritance taxes. So this is a tabular summary. If you're on this call and you're not from the UK, I apologize. However, you can focus on the Italy taxes, which will apply to Italy property. And if you are in the UK, of course, you might compare to council rates. So for on every €1,000 worth of property, or a property worth €100,000, I've just tried to do my best to get an example. I've looked at a house in the Richmond upon Thames area in the E band, council band there, and the council rates are provided on the website of the local council. It's not too difficult to find. In Italy, the equivalent annual tax, the IMU, will be between 0.4 and 0.7% of what the local council or comune calls the rentable value of that property. And it's so that calculation on a €100,000 property is more like €550. That rate, as I mentioned, varies from comune to comune and depending on the type and nature of the property as well. So this is one of the simplest first costs, and actually a very common question that we get a lot about property in Italy is, what does it cost annually in terms of council rates and taxes. And funny, we tend to get that question even more than capital gains and other type questions. Now, there's an annual IVIE tax on foreign property. So now this is for those of you who arrive in Italy or thinking of going to Italy, and you're saying, how are they going to look at my UK property, my American property, my foreign property? So once you're a tax resident in Italy, you are taxable on your overall wealth. And in particular, tonight we're talking about property. So how is your foreign property taxed? Well, it depends. The most important part here is the location of the property. If the property is in the EU area, then the taxable base is the local council value or cadastral value of the property. So for example, if that property value was around 160,000, I'm using pounds to compare in one currency. This is for property that's within the EU area. So if you own a property in France or Portugal within the EU and the UK up until the end of December, you're in the EU area, and your annual tax is going to be calculated at 0.676% of that value of the property. Now, if you're not in the EU and you are in America, Australia, elsewhere, and soon to be UK up 31 December, the actual tax base is either the purchase price or the market value of the property that you own. Now, if you can prove and you have the purchase price, then it will be based upon the purchase price. If you cannot for some reason, or the property is really, really, really old and it's been passed down perhaps from generation to generation, sometimes it's actually difficult to get that purchase price. In that case, the reference base or taxable base is actually the market value. So you can see there's a significant potential difference depending on your particular situation. Unfortunately for UK people and UK citizens residing in Italy with their homes still in the UK, their annual tax bill is going to increase as a result of moving outside the EU. Capital gains. Let's look at capital gains tax and how it applies. In Italy, capital gains taxes when you sell property only applies to non-home property, so investment property and holiday homes, second and third properties. And it only applies when you hold them for less than 5 years. So if you hold a property for longer than 5 years, you don't have to worry about capital gains tax. And if you do sell a property within 5 years and you do have to pay Italian capital gains tax, then the capital gain is included and added to your income to work out what the tax is that you're going to pay. By comparison, in the UK, there's no minimum or maximum holding period for the property. Capital gains tax is payable when you sell a second home or a holiday home. And it's important to know, therefore, that if you do move to Italy and become a tax resident there, then essentially your foreign property, or if you're coming from the UK, for example, becomes your second home. Okay, so in the UK, the capital gains tax rate and amounts I've written there, there's a threshold. You don't pay tax as an individual on the first £12,000 of capital gain, which is very simply the selling price of your property less the purchase price of your property, or £24,000 for a couple. But once you exceed that gain, then the tax is applied, the capital gains tax is applied to second homes and investment properties or buy-to-lets at the rate of either 18% or 28%, depending on your current income tax rate, whether you're a low income rate taxpayer in the UK or a high income tax rate payer. So it's important to know there's been some changes also within the capital gains rules within the UK, and that you're required to actually make payment for any capital gains that you make on the sale of a property from 2020-21. You've got to make payment within 30 days of actually completing and selling a property. So it's important, as I've just pulled out a couple of statements there from that brief summary, and that is to remember this: when you do move to Italy, your foreign property becomes a second home, and that opens you up to potential capital gains tax obligations. Now, naturally, if you moved out of your home in the UK, it's only been for a very short period a non-home or a second home, so there'll be a pro rata adjustment. You won't have to pay capital gains tax on the value of your entire gain if you sold your UK property, but from that point forward, it's a second property. Other property taxes, there is tax on rental incomes in Italy, whether it's a local Italian property or whether it's your own foreign held property, and rental income that has already been taxed abroad already will still be subject to tax in Italy when you're taxable in Italy. However, you will be entitled to a tax credit according to the tax treaty that exists between Italy and the country where you're from, assuming there is one. And Italy does have many, many tax agreements. And they certainly have one with the UK. Oops, I'm sorry for jumping forward there. Inheritance taxes, I want to touch briefly on that. So each country has different inheritance tax policies, and you should be aware that in some cases you may be liable for inheritance taxes both in your home country and actually in the country of your residence. And that does apply in this case actually between the UK and Italy. I'll just give you a summary first of the Italian inheritance tax regime. So in Italy, there is an inheritance estate threshold of €1 million per beneficiary. So each beneficiary, whether it be a spouse or a son or daughter that receives the estate of their parents, they are able to receive up to €1 million in assets before paying any inheritance taxes. Above 1 million, they will pay some inheritance tax, and that amount depends on who the estate is being passed to and what kind of asset that it is. So for property specifically, if the property is being passed to the surviving spouse or immediate children, the inheritance tax rate is 4% if it's on the family home. If it's for a second property or a holiday home, it's effectively closer to 7% when you add in some stamp duty and local taxes that apply as well at the time of death. It's important to note for UK people that property in the UK, even once you've left the UK, if it's still held at the time of death, then you will be subject also to inheritance tax in the UK. Inheritance tax rates in the UK right now, as I've got up here on the screen, and that is you are taxable on your estate at 40% above the threshold of £500,000 in assets. So if I were to do a quick comparison of kind of the different types of taxes, it's not easy to compare, I think, any two countries on certain taxes and make any wide sweeping conclusions. I'm not going to make any wide sweeping conclusions. But if you look on the left-hand side, I've got for Italian property, there's no, once you hold it for a longer term, there's no real capital gains. There is an inheritance tax, but it's amongst Europe and compared to the UK, it's not a significantly large inheritance tax. And the council rates on an annual perspective are quite reasonable. So the cost of ownership aren't that great, relatively speaking, compared to UK property where there are more prevalent ongoing taxes. However, important point down the bottom there, as I've shown in the previous slide, the UK property market has clearly outperformed the Italian market when it comes to growth over time, if you're thinking from an investment point of view. Of course, many people right now are looking to perhaps change their lifestyle and way of living, and that may be nothing to do with investment ambition whatsoever. A couple of points to finish on buying property in Italy. I highly recommend that you spend some time to understand the process. The process is not like the process that you may have experienced whether you're coming from the UK or America or Australia or Germany or elsewhere. Italy definitely has its idiosyncrasies and specific processes in the buying process, and so it's worthwhile getting some help, some advice about how to negotiate that process, and also how to recognize and negotiate the Italian culture. If you haven't bought property in Italy before, then you may be surprised in some cases upon how an agent may respond to your offer or to your request for information or the availability of property, the state and quality of the property documents, etc., before the settlement or the rogito can be completed. The length of time for the transaction. It's quite often in Italy that everything is, many properties are on a case-by-case basis, and there is no fixed understanding that the property purchase will take 2 months or 3 months or 6 months. It can take longer than you expect. So you should keep that. And I see a lot of nodding, understanding fellow speakers as I say that. I would say budget for costs around 10 to 15% of the purchase price is not at all an exaggeration, and that would be higher than the average rate around the world. Italy has actually some of the higher purchase costs for buying property, so be aware of that and don't be fooled into thinking perhaps that the costs are low to get involved from the beginning. The highest costs are generally the cost of the notary and also the purchase tax potentially. If you're buying a home as an investment property or second home, the purchase tax is actually 9%, but it's 9% of the sorry, I just jumped again, of the council value of the property or the cadastral value. But if you're buying actually to move into the property, the purchase tax is 2% for homeowners. And once you make that election that you're buying as a home, there is the understanding and expectation by the Italian government that you will move into that property within 18 months and register the local resident, anagrafe, or register your residence there, which means for all intents and purposes, you're beginning that journey towards being taxable as a resident in Italy and taxable on your worldwide income within Italy. So that's all that I've got time for. I think
you very
I've done my
much,
best
Daniel.
to get it in time. So if you,
Thank
just
you.
quickly, if you need more information, you've got specific questions about that or the buying process, you can email me or have a look at the site there. Okay, I'll stop sharing the screen,
Thank you.
Alessandro, and let's look at some questions. Thank you.
So thank you very much for you all. Just wanted to summarize the major points. Given the fact we receive many questions that are very specific and they require advice, I'm not too sure whether we can reply directly, because as I said, we cannot do advice today, but we try to give as much as possible an informative answers. First of all, it seems to me that it's very important that you check your situation, whether you want to move to Italy right now. You can benefit from the federal regime being still a European citizen from the UK, but be aware that you need to keep presence in Italy then if you want to maintain some of the benefit, or eventually, something we haven't discussed today, but if you want to keep the right to get the passport in the future, you need to have the residency in Italy, which means that if you have a residence in Italy, you become tax resident in Italy, and therefore you end up that you have to probably file 2 tax returns, one in the UK, one in Italy. So dual taxation regimes, and you need to be aware as well that if you were thinking of applying the federal regimes that Giacomo Francioni explained at the beginning, you must have not been resident in Italy before, because otherwise you cannot apply the 24 bis, so the flat tax, or the rientro cervelli, the impatient regimes, or the 7% on the pension schemes. And that's the main problem that you encounter. So you're gonna lose the benefit. And also, from what has been said by Nicola very well, thank you, you can still apply for regimes of visa after the 31st of December, or permesso di soggiorno and all the other stuff. But then bear in mind that you have the option, which is more expensive, of the golden visa regimes, but it gives you much more immediate right to reside and to get the Schengen, which is straightforward and takes very, very little time to apply for, but you need more money. So again, check your cost and benefit. And last point about Daniel, thank you, Daniel. Very clear. Italy, you want to acquire your property, you like it, you want to reside there, you want to have your property. But once you got your property, then you got tax to be considered, you got cost to be considered, purchase cost, ongoing costs, and of course residency cost, because then if you become a homeowner, then you want to apply the lower tax on registro is 2%, but you need to become resident in Italy. And then if you become resident in Italy, maybe you lose the benefit of the impatient regimes or the other regimes. So it's a puzzle that you need to be able to really sit down on the table, get the right advice, and very much be open-minded. And as I said always, it's very important, even for individuals, to apply a strategic plan. It's not just for the businesses. You need to be strategic about yourself as well. What you want to achieve, when and how, and why. That is very important to me. Because each movement that you do, there is a cost involved, and each person that you move with, you have some as well consequences. If you move with your husband, if you move with your wife, if you move with your son, there are lots of variables that, as Nicola suggested before, and this is our job to help you as a chambers both the Italian and the UK, and professionals that are involved in today's call would be happy to help you. Go quickly, because I'm concerned about the time, on the question and answers that we received. Thank you. As I said, there are many that are specific, and I would suggest that we keep in touch with the people, or you can keep in touch with the, of course, the speakers today. With they can answer to you directly, but I don't know if we can keep and we can cherry pick one for each of us, and then we can try to answer. I will start from the first one, Valerie Schuster. If you would like to apply for this situation, is German with a German Euro passport. Nick, do you want to just reply briefly to this first question?
Thank you, Alessandro. I am afraid I don't see her question. Is this on the Q&A? Or?
Yes, the Q&A, yes.
Okay. What's the name again?
Valerie Schuster.
Oh, Valerie Schuster. Okay, Schuster.
It's the first one, right to the
top.
top.
Yes, we go in order. Yes.
Okay. Well, I have Sheena LaRusso as the first one. For some odd reason, I don't see it. Is that possible? You see, I mean, if you can read the question, I'll be very happy to.
My husband and I will be retiring next year. He is German with a German Euro passport, and I'm American. Will not be doing any business, but I may work self-employed with American companies. We are interested to move to Italy. What we need to know? Thank you.
That's a very, very good question. Well, since they are married, and since one of them is a European citizen, German citizen specifically, they can go to Italy without going through the consulate very easily, establish their home wherever they want in Italy, and once they have a lease agreement or a property purchase title, the husband can first establish residence as a European citizen, and we have gone through the requirements today. And once he has the residency certificate, the wife, Valerie, can apply for the Carta di Soggiorno, the family immigration card, based on being married to a European citizen who is registered as an Italian resident. So it is a pretty straightforward process. There is no discretion involved by the Italian immigration offices. It's just a bureaucratic paperwork. It takes a little bit of time, a ton of patience, but you just can go to Italy. And then, of course, there are the tax implications Giacomo was referring to earlier.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'll pick another question now. It's for Giacomo. Is on the tax side, from Francesco Fanelli. As a freelancer who might want to return to live in Italy, in addition to the benefit listed on the 70-90% southern regions, I imagine I will have to open an Italian VAT number. But how does it work with regards to IMSS, which is the contributi? Do I have to consider it, if I'm not mistaken, 24% and paid from the first year?
Yes, the answer is pretty much yes. So whenever you decided to start to work in Italy as a lavoratore autonomo, you will have to open your partita IVA, and then you will have to pay your national insurance contributions to IMSS, and you can actually still benefit from the lavoratori impatriati regime with the reduction of the taxable base, but then this will not cover the national insurance contribution. So for those you will have to pay.
And bear in mind that you've not been resident in Italy before, so more than 6 months in the previous years. Otherwise, you won't be able to benefit from the importation regime. So I'm trying to find something for Daniel. in regards of purchase of property.
I can see an interesting, if I can jump in, Alessandro.
Yeah.
I can see an interesting question. Actually, James Goodwin has raised this both before the seminar and during. It might be a good little opinion question for each of us, where he says, he just said it at 7:19, Italy has the fastest aging population in the world after Japan, and this will need to be paid for by higher taxation. I fear that as foreigners moving to Italy will be taxed even more in the future. Are my fears justified? As a resident, will I be treated the same as an Italian resident in future? Well,
I can answer to this.
I
can answer to this, so given my role, I'll answer to this.
Please.
Everybody will experience more tax in the future, given what happened with COVID. This for sure. First point, unfortunately. Your point is very technical, though, and there is a principle under European law that you will never be treated differently from anyone European citizen if you were to move in Italy and you are a new resident compared to an old Italian resident, or vice versa, or even if you are another citizen from Europe, you cannot be treated unfairly compared to an Italian citizen. So this is a European principle. It would be difficult to understand whether you are, if you are British, and this will be applicable in the future, because this is my area of job. With the European Court of Justice, decisions will not be applicable any longer, given the Britain will no longer part of Europe. So it will be difficult to understand if the famous principle of some of the judgment of the European Court will apply and will be able to help you to not be treated unfairly. Unfortunately, that's a very good point. Thank you for the question. And Daniel, if I may, there's one from Cristina Abriani, so it's related to property. So
I see.
Can you see it?
I see it. It's about the UK house. So if your UK house is not rented, but you're a resident in Italy, would you still need to pay the tax in Italy on the UK property, where you are still, of course, paying council taxes? As I was still also resident in UK. Well, that last line kind of changes the context a little bit, Christina, but in general, the answer is yes, you do. If you're Italian tax resident, you will still have to pay the wealth tax, or IV, i.e. on foreign property, regardless of whether you rent it out or not. So renting it makes no difference. However, you mentioned at the end where you'll still also be resident in the UK. That's a conflicting kind of statement, because you're either going to be tax resident in one country or the other. Typically, you may be moving between the countries, but if you fall within the definition of tax residency in Italy, that's the big question. If you fall within that definition, then you will have to pay that annual IVIE tax.
Thank you very much, Daniel. We have 2 minutes to spare. I think that we can.
I see. There's lots of residency questions, aren't there, guys?
Yeah, lots of residency questions to address from Nicola. I think that would be better if they be in touch with you. And of course, as chambers, we're happy to help you, even with the consulate and all the other procedures that you need to follow. So be in touch with us in the UK, and of course, go in touch with the British one in Italy. And as I said, not only the professionals on this panel are available, we have other professionals that are part of our chambers that we can refer to, and we can help you to address as many questions as possible. And hopefully we're gonna see a deal coming. But however, even if the best deal possible, I doubt it, will not be sufficient to avoid these new rules. These new rules will be in any way, in any form, applicable both in the UK and in Italy. So it will no longer be the same kind of situation for both Italians and British citizens to enjoy both countries. There's an option to have 2 passports, like myself, the UK the British one and the Italian one, but it's difficult to if you don't get in time and you don't get of course, all the procedures in place. So again, as I said before, it's important that you plan in advance what you want really to achieve, how you want to do it, and why. And then there are solutions for you, for sure. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much, panelists. I think we really enjoyed, and I hope that we can hopefully organize another of these seminars after the so-called deal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you much,
Bye.
Alessandro. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.